Hey guys, tonight's video is going to go a little bit differently than normal. Got a ton of new parts in over the last 2 days. I'm a little pressed for time, so I want to get them installed on this truck, get this video shot and uploaded up for you guys to be able to see all the new cool stuff that's going to start rolling out here for the Axial Yeti. Now, some of these parts are still prototype or not quite 100% the finish that you'll see them when you order them off of the different websites, but I'll go over why I'm changing them out, what the points of the upgrades are, and exactly what I'm planning to do with this truck this weekend. These are the new aluminum trailing arms from Vanquish. Vanquish has basically adapted the same styling and design as they had for the Twin Hammers rear trailing arms, but adapted them to the length for this Axial Yeti. Now these have 3 adjustable shock locations where the stock had 2. Now, the stock one was obviously a plastic link. Now, I've had no problems at all with these plastic links so far. They've actually held up really well. However, I have not been jumping this car very much. I showed you in that last running video, I was kind of chucking it over a ramp a little bit, but that's really about the extent of the jumping that I've done. You guys saw pretty much all of it. So jumping just really isn't my typical style. However, for the guys that do jump these more, they may find that these plastic arms will fatigue over time, and you'll get a little bit of a buckling up in the front section. So if you're going to jump this car a lot, keep in mind that you may want to upgrade to some aluminum arms down the road. Now, like I said, I have had 0 problems with these plastic links. However, I'm going to upgrade anyway. I got a chance to run the brand new Vanquish Links, so going to take that opportunity to throw them on the car. Like the stock arm, this is a one-piece arm, meaning that there's no rod end to thread in on either side. So there's a couple of different pros and cons with that type of situation. One, the aesthetics. A solid one piece looks much more realistic, much more like the full-size trailing arms you'd see in the real off-road world. A big plus there. Now, the typical downfall to a one-piece metal on metal style design is that they become sloppy. They wear, and then eventually some of them can even just fall apart. You'll just, especially if you've ever used any of the cheap Energy hot racing style link sets, such as the ones that they make for the Wraith or AX10, they're total garbage. They'll fall apart sometimes before you even really get to drive the truck. Now, that was a concern with something like this, but that has been taken care of. Vanquish, what they did was they made an adjustable tension style system that has an insert on the back side that you can adjust the tension on with a set screw in the back and then lock it down with a screw on the side. So that issue has been paid very close attention to, and it's fully adjustable. So there's no concerns with that being an issue over time. Now, jumping to the front end, a couple of upgrades are going to stick out at you right away. The very first thing may be this bright orange set of Vanquish Axial Exo knuckles that also bolt right onto this car. Now, these use the same arm design basically as the Axial Exo did, so they do not have the increased clearance that the Yeti knuckles that come with this car have. However, these knuckles will clear the stock wheels, and they'll also clear wheels like the Vanquish Methods or OMFs, even with the small 225 offset SLW hubs. Right now, I've got the Crawler Innovation 6-bolt plastic non-beadlock wheels, and of course, those don't have that beadlock hardware or anything like that to get in the way, so they mount right up still. But you will need to pay close attention to what wheel you decide to use or what offset you use if and when you change out the wheel or you change out that hub from the plastic hub to a Vanquish SLW aluminum hub. So a number of things to keep in mind. Now, if you're looking for very detailed information about those offsets and things like that for wheels, go to rccrawler.com, go to the Yeti section. At the very top, there's a sticky labeled Critical Dimensions and Information. In there, I've got all kinds of information specifically on all different parts of this truck, gear ratios, link lengths, parts compatibility, different offsets for wheels, all that type of information that you could possibly need. I try to organize it very nicely right at the top of the very first page. You don't even have to read very much. Just go there and find the info you're looking for. So keep that in mind. The next thing you may notice is a full set of titanium links in the front. Now, what I ended up doing is replacing those plastic links that came on the truck with a set of Vanquish 3/16 titanium links that use a Traxxas Revo size rod end. So a very beefy setup, proven to work on all the cars that we ran in the past. Wraiths, SCX10s, AX10s. We have beat this setup hard, and those things continue to stand up. So no worries on these style links. If you buy these once, you're never going to have to buy them again. Now for one more piece that's not installed yet, but I'm probably the most excited about, is this little piece here. What this is this is the new steering rack from Vanquish. This is a early production prototype type unit. Doesn't have necessarily the finish on it that you'll see when you get it out of the package when you buy it, but I couldn't wait, had to have it right now. Talked to those guys and was able to get one on the way. So once the Yeti is available, these things are going to be available too, and you guys are going to be able to tighten up that front steering right away if you're really looking to push this thing ultra hard and way further than maybe the normal person would go. So keep in mind that as soon as this car is going to become available, there's going to be all kinds of aftermarket support already, which is super typical for an Axial product. This truck is really kind of the perfect mix of using existing parts and designing new parts. Tons of new fun stuff to play with, but still a lot of those proven interchangeable parts that a lot of us have in our parts boxes or retailers have on their shelves already. It's just been one of the most fun cars to work on for that reason specifically. To get this steering rack installed, I've got to disassemble most of the front of the truck and the rear end. I'm also going to tear that apart for another reason. I've got two sets here of the Axial hardened underdrive gear sets. Now I'm going to do underdrive in both the front and the rear. I'm not going to mix and match gear ratios like you may see in some strictly crawling type rigs. While I do want to push this rig in the rocks, that's not going to be my only use for it. I still do plan to go fast. I want to race it on our Ultra 4 track that we're building here in Kansas City as well. So by no means am I looking at making this thing a strict 100% crawler. Going for a better 50-50 mix than this thing may see out of the box though. So by throwing in the underdrive gears front and rear, I'm going to be able to lower the overall gear ratio of the entire car and allow me to have a little bit more control when I get into the rocks. So that's the point of that. That's why I do have the rear end of this car opened up already to swap out this. And then the front, when I'm taking apart to throw that steering rack in there, going to throw in that other set. Now, in a previous video, I had mentioned that the last time I had this thing out on the rocks, I ended up burning up a spur gear. What Axial has done recently is come out with a new slipper setup that uses a dual pad type system. When they did that though, it also uses a spur gear that's proprietary that takes that pad. So I ended up having to wait for a spur gear replacement. Now that new spur gear uses a hexagonal style pad that goes on each side. When you order replacement spur gears, you need to make sure to get those pads as well because they do not come on the spur gear. So pay attention to that if you ever do blow up a spur gear and you need a replacement. Now, I was determined to change that spur gear out to a steel one. That's what I run in most all of my other cars, and that was just going to be the way I was going to go. Now, I use Robinson spur gears in a lot of my other cars because they're just a big, beefy setup. However, they take some modification to fit into even like a normal Axial style SCX-10 or Wraith transmission. For this car, that's not available yet. So I was thinking I was going to have to try and modify something to make that work. Well, knowing that I was going to do that, the guys at Axial, who I had a little bit of a relationship with, were able to kind of slip me out a sample of their own steel spur gears here early. So I got lucky and got a hold of this. So Axial is going to have 60, 64 tooth, and 68 tooth steel spur gears available for this car, which is a nice plus, something that we didn't have readily available to us before. So again, Axial's been watching the market and they're covering their bases with all the different types of upgrades we could use. So while I'm in here, also going to swap out to that brand new spur gear that let me try out. One thing to pay very close attention to, if you're running a steel spur gear, make sure to get a hardened pinion gear. If you're running just a regular old steel pinion gear on one of these steel spur gears, you're going to eat it up in no time. It will literally disintegrate on you and it'll sound like you stripped a spur gear. Something also that I need to specifically mention. In this car, I'm running that heavily modified front end style that uses those MIP drive shafts. If you are going to attempt to run those at all with anything that resembles a stock replacement type knuckle, you're probably going to have to do a bunch of grinding. I had to take these knuckles and put them in there and really grind them out pretty good on the inside to make sure that they clear that MIP drive shaft at all of the angles during steering and suspension travel. So again, these are not a bolt-in modification only if you're running MIP front shafts. If you're running stock shafts or maybe some stock style upgrade shafts that could become available or are available for the Axial EXO already, then running a stock style replacement is going to be no problem whatsoever. For me, running those extra large MIP drive shafts out of a Slash 4x4 took a lot of modification, just like installing those front end parts out of a Slash to. All right, with all that work outlined, I'm going to get back to work. I've got a lot of work to do and I want to have this thing ready to go and hit the road. Hopefully I can get some video of it out there this weekend. Really looking forward to doing some hiking with this car, and I'm really looking forward to really throwing some testing down on that new Pro 4 HD and RX-8 combo in combination with all these other new parts that I'm throwing on this truck. So for this one, that's it, and we'll see you guys on the next one.